Normally I take on these sort of things with my partner, but she's out of town on another job. But unlike Libby, crime doesn't go away to Birmingham for a compulsory work event. There's murders, and heists, and more murders. If I'm going to clean up the City of Angels, I'm going to have to do it by myself. And that means a solo session. Now, when Libby told me she was going to go away for work, I had to think about which kind of solo game I was going to spend my evenings playing. And one came straight to mind. Detective City of Angels. Now, this has been on my wish list for just over a year. Anyone who knows Libby and I would know why Los Angeles is so important to us. And this is a game that's set in 1940s Los Angeles. It's an era I love. I love that kind of golden age of cinema, which is why I enjoy the game Hollywood so much. And it's something I've even studied at university and school. I love those kind of old classic movies, and I particularly love film noir. So when I heard about this game, I was very excited, particularly because the designer said he based it on the film LA Confidential, and also the films The Big Sleep and The Maltese Falcon from that kind of those classic noir films in the 1940s. But I was most excited when I found out that he'd based this game on a video game called LA Noire, which is a game I really loved. Evan Derrick in an interview said, "Rockstar's LA Noire was a revelation when I first played it. Set in post-war Los Angeles, this video game placed you in the shoes of an up-and-coming homicide detective and asked you to solve various mysteries. But what made the game special was the innovative interrogation system, which relied on state-of-the-art facial motion capture technology. You're supposed to read the faces of the suspects, listen to their voice, and analyse their body language to figure out if they were lying or telling the truth. I wanted a board game that felt like LA Noire. So a board game based on a video game that I really loved. Detective City of Angels quickly went from being on my wish list to being a holy grail game, and imagine how excited I was when I saw it at the UK Games Expo for less than half the price of the retail edition, with an expansion included. And what's better still, is only the first case had been played, so this was essentially brand new. But how does a board game version of a video game actually play? In this narrative-heavy game, players will attempt to solve criminal cases in 1940s Los Angeles. As a noir dick, you'll use your deductive powers to answer 3 case points. For the most part, this will mean a lot of questioning of suspects. Answers will be provided by a games master called the Chisel, who will consult his archive and present you with one of 4 possible answers. You can even press them if you think they're lying. Success will get you a better answer, and also leverage to use against a suspect in the future. But being a bad cop and wrongfully using the strong arm of the law will mean the Chisel gets leverage on you. As you explore LA, the cases unfold with more evidence coming to light. And when playing in the group, you can also do all sorts of shady antics, as you inevitably succumb to the appeal of police corruption. Cases quickly become more complex as witnesses and evidence contradict each other, making it harder to find the truth. You'll scribble down notes as time marches on, as by the end of your allocated time, every gumshoe must submit their solution to the investigation. Hopefully one of you will expose the awful, terrible truth. So from that you can see why I really was excited to play Detective City of Angels. It's got all the things I really love in a game: a strong narrative, kind of decision making, interrogation systems and player interaction. I really love the idea that you could go around and do some underhanded bad cop stuff and steal evidence and hide it away, or bribe other people, or try and read the Chisel and work out whether they're deceiving you just to play with your mind, or whether to improve the structure of the game. And when I found out about the game, that's kind of when it dawned on me that someone was going to have to be the Chisel if I played it in a group setting. And that was probably going to be me. And if I was going to be the Chisel, I would need to know the cases first. So what that in turn meant was this was going to be the perfect solo game for me. I could play through the entire game, learn the cases, and then be a better Chisel. And just looking at the card, you've already seen that the artwork is by Vincent Dutray, an artist I absolutely adore. So much so I've even bought the art book to see about his work in process and find out how he made the amazing art you see in this game. So I had a game that seemed to be right up my street. I had free time to play, and I then could learn about the cases, ready to play with my friends and be the Chisel. But how did this game change in solo mode? In solo play, you'll have the same cases to solve, but without someone playing as the Chisel, you'll need to refer to the Sleuth book to investigate. As you move around locations, you'll get reference codes relating to evidence you find and people you meet. For one of your 4 turn actions, you can look these up in the Sleuth book to find out more information about a specific part of the case. Questioning newly discovered suspect is still the focus, of course, and if you doubt the answer the Sleuth book gives you, you can challenge a suspect, leading you to a different extra passage to read. If you are right to push your luck, you've earned leverage, but if you found out they were telling the truth all along, you'll get stressed. And getting too stressed loses you precious time to solve the case. When you run out of time, you must submit a final guess. This generates a number which you can cross-reference with the Sleuth book. If the sum of the 3 numbers your 3 answers generates is the same as the number in the Sleuth book, you've cracked the case. Now while Libby's been away, I played through 3 cases. The first one is very much an introduction case, a tutorial that teaches you the kind of groundwork of the game, the way it's played and the mechanisms you need to learn to use. I didn't really feel like that was a complete reflection of everything that was going to be there, and if we did in fact play it in a group situation, I wouldn't be a Chisel for very long. You can play through the first kind of case in 30 minutes. So then play the second case, which is a heist one, which played slightly differently because you were trying to solve a mystery rather than identify a murderer. It felt more like those kind of point-and-click adventure games I talk so much about. There's a puzzle to be solved, and the more you got the clues and the evidence, the more that kind of pieced together. And interesting in that, unlike the first case, there are some bits of evidence I never even saw. So it's interesting that some of these cases can play out very differently, and you get to actually replay them to see how else they might play out. Or indeed, you could just read the other cards and learn it, which is what I did in preparation for playing this multiplayer. Now, I found both of those cases relatively easy, and as I said, I got the first expansion included with my purchase. So I decided to play one of those cases as well, which I found to be much, much harder. The game is fantastic. The art obviously looks amazing, and I really enjoy the kind of stress level that you get from this game. Even when you're playing in sleuth mode, there's always this kind of weird feeling about, do I push for this answer? Or will that, add the stress to my character? But if I don't, am I going down the wrong path because I'm believing something that's a lie to actually be true? There's kind of a lot of decisions to be made as you play. And you can't do everything. As I said, in the second case, there's bits I never saw because I simply ran out of time and I couldn't see them all. So which priorities do you do? Do you interview your key suspect quite a lot and find out everything you can find out from them and to later point the finger? Or do you diversify and talk to as many people as you can to try to find out what's going on? It feels like a kind of love letter to both LA Noire, as the designer intended, but also those kind of film noir games and film noir films that you used to see, particularly in kind of the classic Hollywood period. It does remind me of LA Confidential and the books of Elmore Leonard. It's got such great writing, and a game like this, a narrative-based game, really does fall apart if it's written badly. That being said, there are some flaws to the game. There's another series of games I really like called the Ace Attorney games, Phoenix Wright games. And in this, you often have to interrogate a witness. Now, sometimes you often know what answer you want to get from them and what answer they're likely to give. But the problem is, you don't quite know what to ask about to get that response. And particularly when you're playing City of Angels Detective in sleuth mode, making the wrong assumption and asking the wrong thing can actually cost you quite dearly. So there's times where there's kind of a illogical thought process. It's like, well, I know this is the answer, but which question can I ask to find out that for sure? Now, I know what you're thinking. Games like this, they can only be played once, but obviously I've already proved that you can actually play each of these cases twice if you play them first in solo mode and then in a group setting. But there's 9 cases in the box. Each one of those lasts between 30 minutes for the introduction case and probably an hour for each one after that, which means for 9 cases at an hour long, you're getting 9 hours of really amazing gameplay. This game isn't a game for everyone, of course it's not. It depends on you having to kind of imagine the scenarios. It depends on you actually liking this kind of detective game. We've seen it quite a lot in various different iterations and very different styles of games. I've talked about them quite a lot as well. But this, I think, does the detective game better than any other detective game I've actually played. I really felt like I was solving a crime. There's moments where I felt like I'd cracked the case and I was ready to commit to an answer. And that moment of realisation you don't get in many other games. I sincerely can't wait to play it in a group situation where I am playing the Chisel and I have to make the decision, do I give people the best answer to help them on the path, to keep them on a level playing field with the other players? Or have they irritated me in some way and then I give them a bad answer? Is that what that character would do? There's all these kind of thought processes again that you have to enter into when you're playing as a Chisel. And I kind of like the idea of being a games master. I've talked already about this when we talked about Critical. How I love the idea of sculpting the experience of other people, and if they're having a great time, they'll no doubt be thanking me for bringing that experience to them. This is an expensive game. There's no getting around that, and it's actually quite tricky to find. But if you do see it, and you do like those kind of, either those old style point and click exploration games, obviously LA Noire, if you love that kind of gritty Hollywood of the 1940s period, if you love Vincent Dutrait art, there's so many reasons why you should pick this up. And if you see it cheap, get hold of Detective City of Angels. You won't regret it, and I've had a fantastic time playing it. In fact, I'm now going to have to hoover up all of those expansions before they sell out, just so I can elongate the length of this time of this game for longer. It's quickly gone from being a game I was interested in to being a game that's going to be in my top 10, and I think it's going to be there for quite some time. It's almost a perfect game for me. But have you played Detective City of Angels? Do let me know in the comments down below, or indeed, have you played other similar detective games? Maybe the Sherlock Holmes games, and you think maybe I should try those? Do let me know down below and give some suggestions. But where do you like to buy your board games? Obviously go to a friendly local game store, and for us here in the southeast of England, our friendly local game store is Chaos Cards. And if they're selling Detective City of Angels, we have a little discount code down below which will give you some money off in the checkout. But as always, thank you so much for joining me on my first solo adventure. I've been rolling solo without Libby, and if you'd like to see more of this, do consider subscribing to our channel, and we post a board game video at least twice a week right here on YouTube. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Oh, smoke again. Smoke. And now I've gone black and white now.